Hey guys, I just wanted to go over a car rig that I've been working on and just show off some of the capabilities of the rig and also ask for some help in the end because I do have a problem with the automatic wheel rotation, and but more on that later. So let me just show you what does work. Um, so the wheel rotation kind of works halfway. So let me go into camera mode and drag this along the y-axis. And so immediately we could see is there's a bump terrain, and the car is actually reacting to it by going, and the wheels are rotating and going up and down based on um, some pits and hills along the way, as well as the actual body is rocking back and forth. And so yeah, that's what happens when you move it up and down, and that's just a bit faster. Okay, that's the kind of the broad overview of the whole thing. So now the way that the wheels are moving down is these pads on beneath each wheel are having a shrink wrap constraint to and the target is plane, which is this thing. I should have probably named it floor, but too late for that. Now let me disable those and actually take a look at what they do without the shrink wrap constraint. So you could this is now if it was driving on a regular road, it's just no bumps, it's just going straight. Right. So let me exit out of that, get rid of the terrain, and show off the wheel rotation. So that's the steer control. You could just rotate it on the z-axis, and it has a limit of 45 degrees on each side. There's also a drift control, which rotates the actual car body to a different way. And again, it has a 45-degree limit. Alright, going back to the pads, if I move it up, the car body moves up, so that's how it achieved the whole bumps. So this would stick to the surface. Right now it's not because they removed the shrink wrap, but if it was, it would move the car body up and down. Same thing with the back, and this, and this. Okay, and you can also move both of them, and the car would just go like this. Or move these back ones, and yeah, you get the point. You can also move them from side to side. Okay, in addition to those pads, you could also control the tilt of the car through this gimbal. So if I move it on the x-axis, it rotates like that. So this is useful for steering, and it goes front to back, and this is useful for acceleration, deceleration, animation. And yeah, that's about it. So let me just hide the car body and show you what's going on underneath. So when I move, say, these pads up and down, they move this bone cage that I've constructed. There is a kind of, so okay, so let me move this up, right? I'll move this like 0.3 up, and look at the front view. So what's happening is that the front bone is tracking that position and rotating accordingly. But then the rear, that's where the rear wheels are, and it's just staying flat as it should be. Now, I have this middle bone here in the middle of these side bones. And this determines the average location between those 2 points. Now, I have the same thing for the front to back rotation. Again, this is just averaging between the right and left sides. And then these rotations are getting copied to this tilt bone, and this is to what you would parent the whole all of your car parts to, so your car body. And in this case, it's just one mesh. And then additionally, you could use this control to further make any adjustments to that tilt bone. Right. And then moving on to the drift. This is just a control that moves this bone on the bottom right there, drift rotation. And so everything's just parented to that, and it just rotates just like this. And right, the steering, it's just a copy rotation on these two bones, and it just yeah, rotates like that. And that's pretty much it. If you're wondering how to make these custom shapes for the bones, it's pretty easy. In pose mode, you go to this bone button, scroll down to when you see the custom bone shape. So here I have an object called bone shape master, and it's actually in this layer, and there it is. And this is just a simple mesh that I made and extruded up a little bit to give it some thickness. You could see it from every angle. And this one right here just made up some words, text, and made it a mesh using Control-C and put them in here. And again, this just has some thickness. That's pretty much it. And this is a spring. Using the spring modifier, I just made a triangle and added a sorry, not spring, screw modifier, and it made this for me. So yeah, that's how you do custom bone shapes. Just make sure to name them something you can easily find, and select your bone. So this is what it looks like in edit mode, actually. Then you select your bone, go down to the bone shapes, and just shoot it here. Alright, so moving on to the problems with this mesh, or sorry, with this rig. And that is the automatic rotation. Now it works fine when, let me just clear everything and hide this junk. Okay, so if you watch the wheel rotating part, as I move it on the y-axis, they rotate. However, if I rotate it 90 degrees and try to move it along the x-axis, the global x-axis, they don't move. However, let's just take a look how they work. Now, they are dependent on the master bone location. So this is the source location, and it goes from 0 to 1.81. So, and then it maps that, or transforms that, does the transformation constraint, into the rotation of this bone along its local x-axis. And these are both evaluated in local space. So my confusion lies in the fact that this, let's put up the local here on the axes. Here its local axis is pointing along the global x-axis. So theoretically, when I move it along y, local y, right here, see it's local y, it should rotate these bones right here, because they are both evaluated in local space, but they do not. And that's my confusion right here. So that doesn't work. If you try to animate it along some circle or ellipse, it just go in, or some curve, for example, you put on a curve constraint on this, it won't work. Now, I've looked into a solution on Jonathan Williamson's tutorial on blendercookie.com. There was a comment and provided a solution to this. Now, it seems to work at first, but it really doesn't. So let me just quickly I'll show you the solution that was proposed. Using two empties, first let me go to object mode. I will add empty. Oh, let me just add arrows so you can see what the axes are. So this is empty 1. Just name it empty 1. And then I will add another empty. For now, I'll just make it a sphere just to differentiate it. So I'll call this empty 2. This empty 2 is going to be parented to empty 1. Control P. Okay. So now when I move this, it sticks. However, we're going to take this second empty and apply a copy location constraint. And this is going to go to the armature, and it's going to go to the master bone. Okay, so now what's happening is it's stuck to that master bone as I move it. Okay, one more thing is to select the first empty and add a rotation constraint to it, and again make it a point to the master. Okay, so now what's going on is I can move this, and then when I rotate it, it's just rotating with the whole armature. And if I wanted to move it on along the y-axis, oh right, sorry. One more thing is to go into pose mode, select this. I'm just gonna do this on one wheel just to see, because it doesn't really work that well. But instead of targeting the master, I'm going to target the empty 2. So that's that sphere, empty 2. Okay, so now when I move it along the y-axis, yay, it rotates. Now, if I say rotate it along the z-axis to 90 degrees, point it along the x-axis, grab x. As you can see, it rotates. So it seems to work fine. That solved my problem, right? Well, not quite. Let me just show one more thing before I show what the problem is here. If I rotate, everything seems to be fine. Everything's stationary, and that's supposed to nothing's supposed to rotate when I just rotate the master bone. Okay, now let me just clear everything. Location, rotation, right? Send it back to normal. And let's move this along the y-axis to say -5 here. And as expected, that newly bone with targets the this one right here. It rotates fine. Okay, now the problem is when it's offset, when this object and this object are offset, and I try to rotate the master bone along the z-axis just to turn a car, we can see that now that front left wheel is rotating as I rotate it. Now this didn't happen when it was at the origin, or these two objects were at the same point. However, it does happen when they're offset, and the reason is, if we look at these, look at the axis here, it's y and x, right? And let me switch this to axes too. Let's see, arrows here. Okay, so if I rotate this along the z, as you can see, the first empty is rotating because we set the copy rotation. However, in local space between these two empties, this one is actually moving relative to this one because this one is rotating. Now this one is stationary, this one is rotating. So this one is actually moving in an arc between the y and x axes of this coordinate space, which is causing a transformation that leads to a rotation here. So if I move this, if you look closely to where, so this point, and then how it moves relative to this empty, you could see that it's actually, if you imagine yourself just moving with the first empty, you'll see that this is actually moving in sort of an arc. And that's what's causing the problem. So if I wanted to animate this along a path, again, just standard animation with keyframes, what would happen upon turns, when this is turning, it would do this weird sort of rotation on that wheel. So while it seems that this would work, it actually doesn't. As far as any other stuff that I try to find on the internet, on the forums, on YouTube, I couldn't find anything else that worked. Pretty much all the same stuff that has been reiterated, just that transformation with pointing it to some, probably like the master bone or like the actual armature that moves, and that corresponds to your rotation along the wheel. And while that's great for just going in a straight line, you can't do things like animate a car around a racetrack without having to manually rotate the wheels, as the automatic wheel rotation won't work. And the problem with that, with the manual rotation, is you can't get it perfect in terms of the wheel rotating at a specific speed based on how fast the car is going. If it rotates too much or too little, you'll see slippage. So let me, I could demonstrate that right now. I'm not sure why the car didn't follow that. Well, that was weird. So right now, if you take a close look at the wheels, if I move it along the y-axis, it moves perfectly with the ground. There's no slippage, and that is because of this distance right here that I set, and this is calculated by your circumference. So I took the radius of the wheel, multiplied by 2, multiplied it by pi, and got 1.89. So this is the distance it would travel with a full rotation. And that's why I have a 360 here. If this was not 1.89, say 2, you get a different speed rotation, and you can see some slippage. For more extreme kind of effect, I mean, just grab 5. Hopefully that will show. But yeah, now it's way too slow, and you see that it's just slipping. It's like on ice or something. It's, well, actually, if it was on ice, it would probably be rotating faster. So let's do 0.1 or something. The other extreme. Now it's rotating faster. Now it's like you get a kind of a ice or a really drifting kind of effect on the wheel, where it's just rotating way too fast for its movement position. So you get that fine balance in this point. So 1.89 is where math tells you the exact kind of rotation that it's supposed to get per its distance traveled. So yeah, that's the reason that it's hard to animate those wheels along with the car moving. Now, of course, you could just add some blur and kind of make the rotation less noticeable in the final composition. Though the actual problem of them turning faster and slower still remains, and you have to kind of manually adjust the speed of the animation rotation to make it as believable as possible. So that's the problem. So if anybody got any solutions to this problem, has figured out how to do it, I've seen lots of videos of cars drifting and turning. Some were done in Blender, some were not. So if anybody does have a solution, post information in the comments section, or I'll have a BlenderArtists forum link where I will embed this video, also in the description or just floating around the screen somewhere. So yeah, if you know of a way to fix this, write it down, send me a link, whatever, and if I get everything working, I'll put up a full tutorial on how to make this rig from scratch to finish, and actually how to use it in animation. As I said, when I tried to add a let's see, follow path, I believe it's -y, follow curve. When I try to do this, what happens is the wheels do not rotate. So yeah, right there you can see that it's doing weird stuff. This is now 300. Slow it down a little bit. So yeah, this is just going wonky right here at turns. So yeah, if this can be accomplished, if the wheel rotation can be fixed, this can be very easy to do and just animate a car along the curve, and then you just kind of add the steering, banking to it. I did the wrong way here, but you get the idea. So you could just do that, or like that. So yeah, it'll be very easy to animate. Unfortunately, the wheels do not work. So yeah, I think I've spent quite a good time on reiterating the same thing. And just once again, if you do know any solutions, if you got any ideas, post them in the comments below or on BlenderArtists forums, or just contact me in some way. YouTube channel has links to various sites. Alright, and that's about it for this video. I hope I can make a full car rig tutorial from this if I figure it out. Alright, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.